Hello friends, welcome to Akul Mic Live and I am Chandrakant. Today we want to discuss about something which happened just a few days back. It's about micropayment platform and it has a global impact because the Indian government has decided something new around the UPI very popular platform called Bheem. And to discuss this, I will be joined by a very distinguished personality from UK. We will analyze this whole aspect from the global perspective. Before I call the guest, I have to tell you that we are live right now and you can actually engage with us. Just use the chat function in your social media, whichever social media you are actually tuned in from, and we will display your name and take your question right away. So let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Gun. He is the chairman of MindFit Ltd, joining us from UK. Let's welcome him. Good morning, Neville. How are you doing today?
Good morning, CK, and thank you for that drum introduction. Much appreciated. And today we're talking about my favourite subject, money, money, money.
Well, it is your favorite subject. You have dealt with very large corporation finances all your life, so you know exactly how it works. But the news is that there is a unified payment infrastructure in India, very large one, and some says that it is one of the largest micro payment platform because of the population we have here. It's called Bheem, BHIM, and the Indian government has announced linking Bheem platform with a similar platform in Singapore called Pay Now. So you are an Indian and you could be a Singaporean. You can now have the ability to transfer money without the use of credit cards or even giving your bank account details. So this is something big. Otherwise, it used to be a problem because sending any remittances outside the country will attract a lot of regulations and filling different types of form. What is your opinion about this development from the global perspective?
Well, there are several issues to look at here. Firstly, this is obviously geared towards SMEs and people like you and me, the consumers, buying product online. So anything that can make that seamless or more seamless has got to be a good thing. And then we look at privacy of information. So sharing your credit card details with a third party who's several thousand miles away sometimes isn't the smartest thing to do. And people in the past have trusted it. I've trusted it, and I'm sure you've trusted it because we've looked at the supplier and we think they're a bona fide organisation. But today, whether or not they're a bona fide organisation, there's unfortunately this thing called the hackers, the cyber thieves that literally grab hold of your data. So it's privacy of information. And again, this is a great move, as far as I can see, as to keeping that information private to you and a third party that you trust. Because there's always going to be a third party when you make a transaction. But effectively, you're paying through a barcode or any type of QR code. So all of your information is on a secure arena, which is literally only going to be shared cryptically behind the scenes, just like a bank-to-bank transfer. Because now we're dealing with banking regulations. Whenever you're talking about this type of arena, we're now talking about banking regulations, not just in India, but also within Singapore. So we're elevating the game, which I think is a really good thing to do to beat the cyber thieves, fundamentally. The other thing is it's a point-to-point transaction. So what it means is on the assumption that you get the goods, and this is a really big assumption that we might have to go into, the money's transferred. And I'm going to make an assumption here because I don't know, because this is something I've only heard at through you currently. So I haven't done any sort of due diligence or research on it. But just like with PayPal, there's a guarantee. So the funds are guaranteed, and the funds are guaranteed at both sides. So the supplier gets the money that's due to them, but if the goods don't turn up, or they're of substandard, or they're broken, there's some form of guarantee within that service. And certainly that's what's allowed PayPal to increase their market reach over the last few years, because they give that literally unqualified guarantee. So on those three subjects, CK, which one would you like to talk about? The privacy one, or the guarantee, or the fact that we're just making life a lot easier to do trade?
I think I like to dwell upon guarantee and then move on to the ease of use. In terms of this platform getting connected with Pay Now of Singapore, which is Beam, and Pay Now will be connected. By the way, the start date is July 22. So there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done before they actually start kicking in their transactions. It's related to micropayment. So it may not be the 100% solution for all payments. I think there are all other payments which requires imports, export of physical goods would go through the normal process. It is only limited to things like micropayment, things like service providers like, for instance, my company, where I don't have to ship anything. I just have to get paid for the services, which is a lot difficult, or rather engage with somebody in Singapore, or maybe hire an employee and transfer small amount to him without exchange of any goods. I think this is a platform which is very suitable for those kind of transactions. And also, if you're traveling to Singapore or vice versa, it'll be a lot easier to buy things in a shop, or if buying a ticket of a museum, or catching a ride, or going on an excursion trip, going to Sentosa Island, So those kind of things will be a lot easier, because all you have to do is just scan your QR code and boom, it's done. So you don't have to carry your, you see, when you apply for visa, you need to submit your credit card. So I do not know how will it change those rules of traveling, passport rules, visa rules, etc. But I think it will be a lot easier for making a payment and collecting the payment from Singapore to India and India to Singapore. And I think when you talk about guarantee, I think that's the thing that we want to discuss. This is instant transaction from your bank account. So if something fails, the transaction does not happen. So it's not it's slightly different from PayPal, where PayPal collects from you as an intermediary and then make the payment to the business owner on the other side. This is an instant transaction based on your mobile number. So I think the guarantee is built into the system. Your views, Neville, before we move on to the ease of use.
Sure. I mean, the guarantee is a really big thing, because once you have, if I walk down to my local high street and I buy a cup of coffee and I walk away and I don't like that cup of coffee, I can walk back into the high street and I can say, excuse me, this tastes foul, and immediately, good customer service, I'll get a replacement, typically, or I'll get my money back. That's the consumer rights that I have here. But when we start to look at transactions over some distance, even within the same country, I don't have that facility. So once it leaves my bank account, I've therefore authorized that transaction. And what that means is I've done my due diligence around the supplier. So if there isn't a guarantee like PayPal give, then there's no guarantee. So although it makes the transaction secure, it still means that as a consumer, you need to do your due diligence, because as soon as it leaves your account, that's it. You have got no recourse apart from back to the supplier. And again, if that supplier is several thousand miles away, well, you don't quite know if that supplier is real in many respects, because I've been subject to this over the last few years, where you think you're getting something that's too good to be true. And guess what? It usually is too good to be true. And you shouldn't have bought it in the first place. I'm sure you and many thousands, millions of people have been caught down that trap. So buyer beware, I think, is still the phrase we should be using here. So as far as guarantee, from what I'm hearing you say, there really is no guarantee. It's like just having that shop locally and you trust that shop. So buyers need to think about, although the transaction has now been made easier for you, the onus is still on you to make sure that you're happy with that specific supplier. So I see you're nodding away there. So let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to privacy. Let's move on to security, cybersecurity in particular, which is another pet topic of mine, because this is about building resilience in between your ears, fundamentally. Let's look at the cybersecurity part. Just very briefly, what do you think, from the privacy point of view, how this is going to improve?
Well, I think there are two aspects here, ease of use and the risk management. And definitely cybersecurity becomes part of the risk management. That is why I think there is a bit of risk in this, because, for instance, if you don't know how to secure your mobile phone and everything is configured on your mobile device and you lose it in Singapore, then obviously somebody can misuse it. So there is a risk management element and there is the ease of use. There has to be a fine balance between them. That is why I think the platform of UPI is linked or used for usually for micro payments, things like $5, $10 and things like that, up to $100 maximum. Beyond that, I don't think a consumer would like to use this method for making a payment. I mean, obviously you don't want to buy something on a UPI until unless, even in case of Amazon, if you want to pay using UPI something which is worth $100, $150, you typically choose cash on delivery. So you can still pay using UPI, but until unless it is delivered to your doorstep, then only you swipe the QR code. So I think there are methods, and each consumer has to become more mature how to use different platforms. So I think there is I'm sure that there are issues here with regard to cybersecurity. But I think there has to be some balance between how much ease of use you need, because if you want to give 100% ease of use, that means you have to bring down the parameter of security. You have to ease all gates because it is 100% easy to use. So there has to be fine balance, and there are certain things, some maturity users need to develop. This is my opinion, Neville. What is yours?
Yeah, I think maturity is a really good word to use. And let's just look at a little bit of history here. People have got wallets. I've had a wallet ever since I can remember, frankly. And in that wallet at that time, I would have cash. Well, you might want to call it a purse, if you like, or women around the world will call it purse. But fundamentally, it's a wallet. It's where we store previously our cash. And now, over time, when I got a little bit older, I had a bank account and I didn't have a debit card. There wasn't such things. These flexible friends didn't really come in until sort of into the 80s. Yes, I'm old and CK's old too. So we can go back that far. And then eventually you got a debit card. And then that went into your wallet as well. And after a while, you got credit cards. Then you got store cards that would have all of your information on. And in the UK, I remember when the Tesco card came out, everyone rushed to it because it gave you lots of benefits around a Tesco card. It was one of the first discount cards that launched in the UK. And we're now coming full circle with this approach, because now all I'm going to carry around is a QR code. That's it, really. So I won't need a wallet anymore. I'm just going to have one QR. Well, maybe not. I mean, I'll probably have a dozen QR codes. And then I have to remember which one applies to which arena, which bank account, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to have to be mature in this arena and grow up with it, because ultimately I can see there being a proliferation if we're not careful. When PayPal was first announced in the UK, it was rocket science. It was mind blowing. Oh, I can just sort of log into PayPal and pay anything to anybody that's on PayPal. And it took a little while for that to get traction. But now, frankly, if you look at any website in the UK, there's always a PayPal option. And that's guaranteed, again, through the credit card opportunity. So we need to look at the financial regulations around these arenas. And I'm not surprised, although that this has recently been announced, it's not until July 2022 that it will go live, because there's lots of things that need to be ironed out in between now and then. But what it does do is it gives us an insight into what's happening in the fintech world. So it might be a phrase you've not heard of. If you've not heard of it, type in #fintech and you'll be inundated with stuff that's flying around in that particular part of the world. But I think it's a great move. I think there's a lot to be done. They've got over 10 months of lots of preparation work to do before it's launched. My guess is they'll delay the launch because there's far too much to be done in 10 months between two fiscal systems and two banking systems, et cetera, But it's a fantastic move in the right direction. And here's to only carrying around barcodes in the future. Won't need a wallet.
Yes, Neville, I think this is quite exciting because so far, as per the Indian foreign exchange regulation, you can receive the money from abroad, but you cannot pay the money to a vendor which you have engaged with. So you can make the payment, but then you need a lot of you need to fill out multiple forms. It takes about 10 days to get the approval and all that, and plus there is taxation. So how the taxation part will be affected by this between India and Singapore, time will tell. But I think it's a very good thing, and probably UK must also open up with India and both countries, because there is a lot of business waiting to happen between UK and India. Indians have the capacity to engage with UK-based merchants. So far, the problem is making the payment, because you lose out a lot of in the taxation and withholding. So I think with this micropayment platform, especially the lower segment payment up to $100 or like £80, should be a breezer, I think. So I think I'm hoping that I think the next news that we will hear is integrating Beam with the UK micropayment platform.
I think it's a great suggestion, TK, and hopefully if someone's listening, they'll be moving down that route. I'll have words with my friends in the Bank of England and see if they're actually considering it. I'm sure they are. And the FCA will be fully on top of everything that's going on. But like anything else, we're entering the world of banking now, and we do know how difficult it is within that fintech banking arena. They're slow to move. They're not really focused on customer service or customer experience, but this is something that actually people are going to be calling for. So watch out, you bankers out there. Get on the case, join this particular project, have a good look at it, see what it's like, because I think this is going to be one for the future. And as I say, hopefully I won't have to have a barcode for every country I'm dealing with. But we live in hope. Fascinating subject today, CK. Thanks very much for inviting me, and good luck, everybody. Read up on it. It's the way of the world. So get in tune.
Thank you so much for finding time, Neville, and joining us on this very interesting subject and futuristic development. But we will catch you next time on something even more interesting. Until then, bye-bye.